up here on the big stage. I've got 4 CIOs who are either local with a local company or are with a company that's doing work here in the local area and contributing to the local economy. So just a little bit of background on myself. I'm a retired naval aviator. I retired here in 2013. When I left the Navy, I retired as the CIO for Naval Education and Training Command, and went into the civilian world. Eventually got pulled back and affiliated with the Navy again. Came on board with a company called CSRA, and took over some of the programs that they run here in the Pensacola area. But I started this group, we call it the ITEN CIOs group. And I started this about 5 years ago, and it was really born out of the fact that I was sitting in a CIO position. It was new to me. I hadn't been a CIO before. We're trying to figure out how to improve and increase our capability for all the Navy training networks around the world. And as I looked around, there was not a lot of places to turn to figure out solutions. There were challenges that I knew were common across all IT organizations, but there was no group, there were no fellows to reach out to. And coming from the aviation community, we always had some sort of, whether it was the Junior Officers Association or your senior officers that would get together, you'd help each other out. So I started reaching out and to the local IT organizations, and I started asking, hey, is anybody interested in getting together? The overwhelming response was, yeah, that's a great idea, let's do it. So the ITEN CIOs was born, and we started with a panel at ITEN WIRED in 2012. Again, that was a big success. We brought it back every year since then. And the whole purpose behind the panel, anyway, was that we wanted to get a message out to the IT community. We wanted everybody to understand, one, where we as the leaders in the IT industry here in the Pensacola area, where we saw the industry going. What were going to be our needs, the IT community's needs in the out years. And the idea behind that is to allow the folks who are coming into the industry or are looking to innovate or change career paths, what's coming down the road? What should I look to learn about next? A lot of new technologies coming out, a lot of new ideas coming out, new ways of delivering IT, and we want to make sure that one, the folks whom we employ understand where we're going and what we're doing, and also, and very importantly, is our service providers. There's a lot of small businesses out there that we reach out to, that we partner with in order to get to meet our needs, our IT needs. And we want to make sure that our support and service providers understand where we're going as well. So 2 years from now, when I've got a new technology or a new way of delivering IT, I don't have to go to a company based out of DC. I know at least everybody here in the service providers in the Pensacola area knew it was coming, and they had the opportunity to either go out and develop those skill sets or the expertise in that technology, and allow us to, I guess, keep it local, if you will. But there's, I don't know if I'll let you guys talk about it, but there was nothing more frustrating to me than having several hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars that I had to send out of Pensacola area in order to get a service that could easily have been provided by somebody here, but nobody knew it was needed, and they didn't have the time to spin it up. So that's kind of the purpose behind this. Again, thank you all for coming. I've got, like I said, I got 4 CIOs here, and we'll start on the far end. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce their names, and then when I'm done, I'm going to turn it over to them and let them tell you a little bit about themselves, the company that they represent, and what they're doing here in Pensacola. And then we got a couple of topics that we're going to start off talking about. And as we go through these topics, folks who want to say something will get a chance, and then I'll open it up as we go through the discussion to the floor. If you guys have any questions, either stand up or raise your hand, and we'll get a mic to you if you need it. If not, just shout it out. I'll repeat the question, and we'll see what the CIOs have to say. All right. So on the far end, we've got Tony Lawrence. He's with VOR Technology. We've got Steve Sarros with Baptist Healthcare. We've got Carla Lewis with C-Spire, and we got Micah Doney with Lakeview Center. So, Tony, to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, Tony Lawrence. I'm actually the CEO of VOR Technology, although I'm dual-hatted as a CIO because of my background. We're the largest small business defense contractor at the National Security Agency and DISA. Currently, we have about 400 people. We specialize in cyber exploitation and space exploitation. Here in Pensacola, we've actually been in Pensacola since 2012 with the Joint Cyber Analysis Course contract. And most people don't know, cybersecurity was started here in Pensacola on Corey Station. I started doing cybersecurity in 2006. I went to school here in Pensacola in 2007 before I became an active cyber operator. So, I mean, this is a pretty cool place to be.
Steve?
So I'm Steve Sarros. I'm with Baptist Healthcare in Pensacola, Florida, and all the Baptist healthcare systems across the state are really mostly, if not all, independent community-owned assets. We are the only community-owned healthcare delivery system between Mobile and Tallahassee. We're pretty proud of that in terms of our connection to the community. We've got about 4,500 to 5,000 people that work in health delivery, another couple thousand that work in Mike's business unit on service, and Mike will talk about that. But we really do appreciate our position in the community as one of the larger employers in terms of driving healthcare, but also hopefully bringing in technologies. And when we look at things from a CIO perspective, the number one issue is always resource management and cost management. It just comes back to that. You got to do everything smart. The second thing, the third thing, we're really maybe communication and infrastructure. And again, those are things that we like to provision as local as possible in terms of those key components to IT delivery. Our PMO is emerging as a very important asset to the company, not just for the IT projects, but for really our overall enterprise projects. This security thing that we're all hearing about, I think the last couple conferences were all around cloud. It's sort of refreshing to sort of put cloud a little bit to the side and get to another topic, although security wouldn't have been my first choice. Then you get to essentially what we really want to get to is collaborate and get all those four elements into empowering our employees, our team members, to deliver great service and care, or just services in the field, and then really transform the business. And we really are doing an exciting project right now at Baptist Healthcare and at our Lakeview Center Industries in terms of new IT systems that are really going to put us on the map in terms of empowering our caregivers with all the tools they need circa 2017, because it still isn't right. And if you've got a Baptist doctor and you go to see your Baptist doctor in November, you might hear some noise and you might see some shuffling around, because we're going to be putting all new systems in. Every caregiver at Baptist Healthcare System will be using a new tool to deliver your care in November. And then when that comes together, we will really do a lot to improve the community, the health of our community, helping people through life's journey.
Okay. I'm Carla Lewis, the CIO of C-Spire. C-Spire is really the nation's largest privately held company. We have a variety of lines of business. We have wireless, we have home services, but specifically here in the area, we focus a lot on what we call our C-Spire business solutions that you see around. It's hosted for we talk about connectivity, cloud services. We have our tier 4 data center in Starkville, Mississippi, where we offer a variety of cloud products, infrastructure, as a service, DR as a service, backup as a service, security as a service, all of those needs that a lot of us have, on a daily basis. Big things, that we're working on. We talk about, I've heard it here, talk about our digital transformation. That's who we are as well. That is, where we are enabling all of our customers to transform. How best do you want to interact with us? What's the best way for you to interact with us? And that's digital, so that you can self-serve, so that you can deliver and really not have to pick up the phone and call someone, right? So that you can self-serve. We definitely like to talk to all of our customers, but for those routine things, right? We want to enable all of our customers to do that, on their own. So that is via our website, our mobile app, and various other platforms. But that is a big focus of ours in the area of automation, in the area of digital transformation, enabling that for all of our customers.
There it is. Mike Idoni from Lakeview Center. So a part of Baptist Healthcare in Pensacola, a large, growing, diverse conglomerate. So if you think about Baptist and Lakeview as just being hospitals and physician groups and a mental health facility, that's just the tip of the iceberg. We have businesses in 13 states, in Washington, D.C., and now in South America. And we're doing child protective services, vocational services, community behavioral health services, managed care services, where we're like an insurance company, and we're actually running Dairy Queen franchises in Tampa to generate monies back into our nonprofit mission. So quite diverse. If you looked at us 20 years ago, heavily office-based. If you look at us today, highly mobile, highly remote, and all the challenges that come with that. Just listening to you and Steve and Tony on the self-serve, it is a growing need. If we're constantly the ones they have to go to put the food in the bowl, then there's a problem there, right? We shouldn't be the impediment to the process. We should be the ones who are enabling efficient and effective solutions and roadways and pathways to our workforce doing their mission every day. And with the project management, like Steve brought up the PMO, we see more and more of a need for that because we always have things going on. There's never a quiet day when you're working in a business like ours that has about 8 primary businesses. It's like 8 businesses under one umbrella. There is never a downtime. There's never a down cycle, and it is a challenge to stay on top of all those things. We can never internalize all the technical expertise we need for the very reason Steve brought up, cost. And there are certain ad hoc specialties that we need to be able to pull on from trusted partners, as we were talking about earlier, Sean. We need to know who are those trusted partners and who can we pull on, who's going to be responsive to us, give us the services we need, and work with us as a partner, not just as a vendor, but as a partner. And so that's, anyways, the intro.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, and I'll just add on with to what Mike said, that the idea of partnerships. Us at CSRA, we value partnerships greatly. They're as big a company as we are with 18,000 employees. My local customer here, I need some local small business partners to keep delivering the solutions. So when you guys are thinking about coming on as a sub to either any of these organizations to provide services, think in terms of partnership. And I'll tell you what, that goes a long way. It delivers a better product to the customer, and the customer is always a lot happier. And when you become that trusted partner, nobody's going to dislodge you. You've got a pretty good revenue stream there. So. Okay, so like I said, we've got a couple of topics we're gonna go over, but the first one, and this is I think this is a very apropos topic, and the topic is, what is cyber? And I wanted to ask these guys what their opinion is on the difference between the way civilian or commercial looks at cyber and the way government looks at cyber. Because one of the things that we have here in Pensacola is we do have a lot of government IT. That's my primary focus. But we also have commercial, we have healthcare, we have communications. So I wanted to get a perspective out there so everybody kind of understands cyber. I mean, it's one of those topics that always goes on at these conferences. But what does that really mean? And I think, I'll let them talk, but I think you're going to be surprised at the differences. So, Tony?
All right. Yeah, I'll take this one. I've heard tons of different definitions of what cyber is, but what I can talk about is cyberspace and the cyber domain. So basically anything that transmits, receives, or stores data constitutes cyber, right? And the electronic devices attached to those means. So basically, so what is that? That's everything. Everything nowadays is cyber. The government and commercial organizations, they look at cyber differently. When I first started with cybersecurity, it was basically computer network operations, CNO. And CNO was a very simple concept. It was comprised of C&E, computer network exploitation, computer network defense, and computer network attack. 3 things. Boom, bada bing, bada boom, that's it. It was very, very simple. And those operations were primarily conducted at the National Security Agency. So most people within my arena would say that the birthplace of cyber is NSA. So anyone that you hear about that's an expert at cybersecurity usually has come from the NSA. So why is that, right? NSA has funding from the government, billions and billions of dollars, spent on building a robust infrastructure capable of exploiting our nation's adversaries' systems. So anyone we're going to war with, NSA has the capability to hack into foreign targets' systems and identify what our enemies are going to do. And they have that capability to protect the United States, to protect us. They do not use that for domestic purposes, but I'll talk about that later. So NSA has the best hackers in the world. And those hackers are using billion-dollar systems to hack into other people's networks. So you have your run-of-the-mill hackers, your guys hacking from their mom's basements, you have those hackers, and then you have these very, very experienced exploiters at NSA. So that's computer network exploitation created at NSA, started at NSA. Over the last few years, as we heard Jeff talking about earlier, defense has become a major issue because hackers, your run-of-the-mill hackers, and nation states are now exploiting our systems. So we have to defend them. Defense was started at NSA as well. The Information Assurance Directorate was the premier organization for defense. NIST was associated with creating defense, and so was DISA. So you have defense and attack. Attack is a large aspect of cybersecurity. When the whole attack picture, when we identified that we needed to attack our adversary systems, it wasn't to shut down anything for malicious purposes. It was to stop attacks coming from other places to our systems. Some of the individuals exploiting our systems were so advanced that we couldn't stop the attacks. So we needed the capability to attack their systems to shut it down. So NSA was not allowed to conduct attacks. So boom, US Cybercom was born. Utilizing Title X, the Warfighter Authority, they are allowed and capable to attack our adversaries with presidential approval. So bada bing, bada boom, that's CNO. So that's how the government sees cybersecurity. Commercial organizations aren't allowed to hack into anybody's networks. It's illegal, right? They can't hack into the Chinese, they can't hack into the Russian systems. It's all illegal. If anybody tells you they're doing that, they should be in jail. So commercial organizations have a defensive aspect on cybersecurity. They're more focused on protecting their networks or their clients' networks. Now, you have some commercial organizations that conduct penetration testing. They'll hack into a network or try to hack into a network to identify vulnerabilities so that other people can hack in. But commercial organizations are primarily focused on defense. So the government has offensive and defensive capabilities, whereas commercial organizations primarily have defensive missions. So in a nutshell, that's cybersecurity, from my perspective.
Well, that's a great perspective, because that's where, when we get to private industry, our concerns are, in healthcare especially, is always centered around privacy. There's not a lot of intellectual property that we house at Baptist Healthcare in terms of plans for nuclear plants or really sophisticated intellectual property. But our intellectual property is actually your patient records, and Baptist Healthcare does have some high-profile patients that come and go from our health system. So we basically do believe that we are a little bit higher target than your typical community hospital, and we really work to make sure that we keep our systems safe defensively, because the way I look at the world, there's nuisance hackers, which are those guys in the basement, that are just doing it for ego. And then there's this criminalization that's really probably longer than I know, but at least over the last 5 to 7 years, we've been hearing about really the criminalization of this hacking. And so that's really what we are interested in. We're not worried about offensive. As you said, we're not a government entity. So it's pretty simple, or it's a little bit more straightforward in terms of what our objectives are, but it really is about keeping our data safe and our data private, and then making sure on the other side is that whole idea about receives, transmits, and stores. And the challenges that we really have in healthcare is that mobility element. Our clinicians and our caregivers and our patients want to have the mobility to access their data and do their work in a much more mobile manner. And that's probably the biggest thing we're facing right now is mobile security, because we pretty much know and have encrypted our data that's at rest or in one place, but we really are looking at expanding our capabilities in terms of mobility, whether you call it BYOD or really even our provisioning all kinds of tablets. We probably went from 10 tablets 2-3 years ago to into the hundreds of tablets and iPhones today that we're doing serving our patients with and taking care of our business with. So those are the challenges I think that we are facing on that cyber.
And I will say that we're the same. We're in the same boat with you. When we have a lot of sensitive data, really that's really our own customers' data, and then but also being in the service provider industry, being in housing, data of folks from all different verticals. So all of it is important to us because in this space it's not a matter of if, it's when, right? And so, but you have to make sure that you just go back to the basics. How do we protect ourselves? We protect ourselves by doing the basic things every day, because anytime you hear of any type of breach or anything that's happened, and when you hear it and you hear it all and you get to the root cause and you hear the root cause, most of it is truly surrounding the basics. The basics things weren't being done, or those basics things were being done, but the people missed it, right? Because those hackers, they're out there, they have their own frameworks, that they have in place to try to really cause a breach for your organization. But when you think about the basics, you think about making sure our employees are trained. I was telling someone earlier, that the number one cause of a breach that we've seen is really in phishing, right? So when you talk about employee training, making sure that patching is occurring, you have a good security practice around that space, controlling access, encryption. So our goal is to make sure that we're doing all the basic things right. And when you do, that is how you protect yourselves from the worst happening to you, and that is the worst, right? In that space is you're losing data, to a breach or whatever.
It's interesting. You asked how it differentiated between government and commercial, nonprofit, and we have one IT contract that's on both coasts. With facilities in Monterey and over in Lorton and Alexandria, Virginia area. And when we go to those facilities, they are very locked down. It's very restricted on, when you go to Alexandria, there's like 3 levels of entry into that site before you can even get in. The last one being you have to step into almost like you'd have at the airport, this bubble, and even detects if it thinks there's more than one person in there. And if it thinks there's more than one, then there are guys with guns around you in no time. So it's very tight on who's allowed in, what's allowed in, and then once you're in, they've got their network locked down because their customer is themselves, right? So very secure network, not much outward facing at all, email very restrictive, all the devices are in there and there's not much leaving there and there's not much going in. And then I come back to us here, and who's our customer? Our customer is everyone out there in the community, and they expect us to be accessible over the internet for different things. Customer portals, patient portals. They expect to be able to walk in our facilities and have Wi-Fi available for them. And so to make all these things available, we somewhat open ourselves up. We are more exposed than the government facilities that I've experienced. And We had penetration testing over the last year, and we'll do that annually. And it basically told us what we knew, that where weaknesses would be where our infrastructure wasn't at its most current state, which takes money. We all know technology is not a one-time spend, right? It's ongoing investment. It is internet and email, anything that's outward facing and is allowing traffic back and forth. If all that was happening somewhere else and somehow we had access to that somewhere else in a tight way that didn't open us up, that is the best world. If that could be off-prem, I'd be singing its praises. And the other thing, surprise, our own people. That is really our biggest exposure, our own people and how they practice every day. What are they doing with their email? Are they sending email between their business email and their personal email, including some things they shouldn't even be doing that with, but are they going back and forth there instead of using our secured remote needs that we have made available? Are they practicing good hygiene? And so it really, as we look at it, if we, infrastructure currency, internal practices, and bring on the money, because it's a constant reinvestment. And it's another reason why, we really, the more spread we get with our facilities, the more challenging it becomes. If we had one facility where everything took place, best world, because you don't have to keep having redundant expenses. That's not our life, though.
Right. So, and I'll share from my experience and our client, and we just recently completed the cybersecurity inspection. So I guess the non-operational guys, the non-weapon systems, they really do. They look at compliance. Compliance is a huge thing. Are you following the best practices? Do you have all your systems configured correctly to mitigate all known threats? They also look at your folks. They look at the behavior of your organization and how people view cybersecurity. There's been a big push within DoD over the last few years that cybersecurity is not something you do to secure the networks. It's what you do every day. It's part of your job, and they're really looking as security as an enabler to the mission. So you've got all aspects of that. There's the physical security and the behavior, and there's constantly exercises, unannounced exercises going on, and they're basically these I call them pretty simple phishing expeditions, right? Where the organization itself will put out a phishing email and see how many people respond to it, and if they do respond to it, boom, the red flags go up, and the entire unit gets training. There's different ways that they approach it, but so essentially, if we were to sum it up, whether you're either government and you focus on different things, right, for cyber, depending on what your mission, what your business need is, why are you using IT? IT is a tool and it's a business enabler, but what is the business? And so you focus on the areas that you need to make sure are available to you for your business to continue, right? That's why we do what we do, right? To keep the business going. And to continue on cyber, there's we look at the Equifax hack, and we were talking about privacy and personal information. One of the things I'd like to hear from everybody up here on is what are we doing? What are the approaches we're doing on our IT systems? How are we optimizing the security while still preserving the functionality and the usefulness of the system?